Good morning, my dears. How are you today? Well, I hope you're having a good day. Grandma wants to read you another story. This one is about Winnie the Pooh. It's called Pooh Goes Visiting. Do you like to visit your friends? Winnie the Pooh was walking through the forest one day, humming proudly to himself. He had made up a little hum that very morning as he was doing his stoutness exercises. Do you do exercises in the morning? Grandma does. True-la-la, he said, stretching up as high as he could go. And then, true-la-la, help, as he tried to reach his toes. He had said the hum over and over until he had learned it by heart. Now he was humming it right through properly. Do you have trouble touching your toes? Grandma does. True-la-la, 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 true-la-la. Rum tum tiddle lum rum tiddle little tiddle iddle. That's a pretty intense hum. Well, he was humming this hum when suddenly he came to a sandy bank, and in the bank was a large hole. Aha, said Pooh. If I know anything about anything, that hole means rabbit, and rabbit means company, and company means food. So he bent down and put his head into the hole. Is anybody at home? He called out. There was a scuffling noise from inside the hole, and then silence. What I said was, is anybody at home? Called out Pooh very loudly. You think there's anybody home in that hole? No, said a voice. Bother, said Pooh. Isn't there anybody here at all? Nobody. Pooh took his head out of the hole and thought for a little bit. There must be somebody there, because somebody must have said nobody. So he put his head back into the hole. Hello, Rabbit. Isn't that you? He said. No, said Rabbit in a different sort of voice. But isn't that Rabbit's voice? Pooh asked. I don't think so, said Rabbit. Oh, it isn't meant to be. Oh, said Pooh. He took his head out of the hole and had another think. Then he put it back in. Well, he said, could you very kindly tell me where Rabbit is? He has gone to see his friend, Pooh Bear, said Rabbit. But this is me, said Bear, very much surprised. What sort of me? Asked Rabbit. Pooh Bear. Are you sure? Said Rabbit. Quite sure, said Pooh. Oh, well then, said Rabbit, come in. They got confused about who each other was, huh? So Pooh pushed and pushed and pushed his way through the hole, and at last he got in. You were quite right, said Rabbit, looking him all over. It is you. Do you know who you are? Pooh knows who he is. Who did you think it was? Said Pooh. Well, I wasn't sure, said Rabbit. You know how it is in the forest. One has to be very careful. What about a mouthful of something? Pooh always liked a little something at 11 o'clock in the morning, and he was very glad to see Rabbit getting out the plates and mugs. Honey or condensed milk with your bread? Asked Rabbit. Pooh was so excited that he said, both. And then, not wanting to seem greedy, he added, "But don't bother about the bread, please." Pooh especially likes honey, doesn't he? For a long time after that, he said nothing, until at last, humming to himself in a rather sticky voice, he got up, shook Rabbit lovingly by the paw, and said that he must be going. See silly Pooh with his head in the honey pot. He likes to eat, doesn't he? Well, goodbye, said Rabbit. If you're sure you won't have any more. Is there any more? Asked Pooh quickly. Rabbit took the covers off the dishes. No, there isn't, he said. Pooh had eaten it all up. I thought not, said Pooh, nodding to himself. Well, goodbye then. So Pooh started to climb out of the hole. He pulled with his front paws and pushed with his back paws. In a little while his nose was out in the open again, and then his ears, and then his front paws, and then his shoulders, and then, "Oh, help," said Pooh. "I'd better go back." "Oh, bother," said Pooh. "I shall have to go on." "I can't do either," said Pooh. "Oh, help and bother." Pooh had eaten so much honey that he got a fat belly and couldn't get back out of the hole. Now, by this time, Rabbit wanted to go for a walk too, and finding his front door full, he went out the back, and he came round to Pooh. There's Rabbit. He's come around to his front door to see Pooh stuck in the hole. "Hello, are you stuck?" he asked. "No," said Pooh carelessly, "just resting and thinking and humming to myself." "Here, give me a paw," said Rabbit. Pooh stretched out a paw, and Rabbit pulled and pulled and pulled. "Ow!" cried Pooh, "you're hurting me." "The fact is," said Rabbit, "you're stuck." Rabbit couldn't pull Pooh out of his front door. "It all comes," said Pooh crossly, "of not having front doors big enough." "It all comes," said Rabbit sternly, "of eating too much." I thought at the time, only I didn't want to say anything, that one of us was eating too much, and I knew it wasn't me. Well, I shall go and fetch Christopher Robin." So off goes Rabbit, as he knew that Pooh was eating too much. Perhaps Christopher Robin could help. Christopher Robin lived at the other end of the forest. When he came back with Rabbit, he saw the front half of Pooh. "Silly old bear," he said in such a loving voice that everybody felt quite hopeful again. Christopher Robin loves his Pooh Bear, doesn't he? "I was just beginning to think," said Pooh, sniffling slightly, "that Rabbit might never be able to use his front door again, and I should hate that." "So should I," said Rabbit. "Use his front door again?" said Christopher Robin. "Of course he'll use his front door again." "Good," said Rabbit. They were going to get Pooh out, huh? "If we can't pull you out, Pooh," said Christopher Robin, "we might push you back." Rabbit scratched his whiskers thoughtfully. He pointed out that once Pooh was pushed back, he was back. Of course, nobody was more glad to see Pooh than he was. Still, some lived in trees and some lived underground, and "You mean I'd never get out?" said Pooh. Did Pooh want to spend the rest of his life in Rabbit's home in a hole under the ground? I don't think so. I mean, said Rabbit, that having got so far, it seems a pity to waste it. Christopher Robin nodded. Then there's only one thing to be done, he said. We shall have to wait for you to get thin again. How long does getting thin take? Asked Pooh anxiously. Almost a week, I should think, said Christopher Robin. Well, I can't stay here for a week, said Pooh. You can stay here all right, silly old bear, said Christopher Robin. It's getting you out which is so difficult. We'll read to you, said Rabbit cheerfully, and I hope it won't snow. And I say, as you're taking up a good deal of room, do you mind if I use your back legs as a towel horse? There he is, putting his towels over Pooh's back legs. Well, because I mean, there they are, doing nothing, and it would be very convenient. That's silly. A week, said Pooh gloomily. What about meals? I'm afraid no meals, said Christopher Robin. Because of getting thinner quicker? Pooh began to sigh, and then he found he couldn't, because he was so tightly stuck. A tear rolled down his eye. Then he said, would you read a sustaining book that would help and comfort a wedged bear in great tightness? Of course, said Christopher Robin. So for a week, Christopher Robin read at the north end of Pooh, and Rabbit hung his washing on the south end. And in between, Pooh felt himself getting slenderer and slenderer. The north end was his head, the south end was his backside. At the end of the week, Christopher Robin said, now. He took hold of Pooh's front paws, and Rabbit took hold of Christopher Robin, and all of Rabbit's friends and relations took hold of Rabbit. Then they all pulled together for a long time. Pooh only said, oh, and oh. See them all tugging and pulling and pulling. Poor Pooh. Then, all of a sudden, he said, just as if a cork were coming out of a bottle. And Christopher Robin and Rabbit and all Rabbit's friends and relations went head over heels backwards, and on top of them came Winnie the Pooh, free. So with a nod of thanks to his friends, Pooh went on with his walk through the forest, humming proudly to himself. But Christopher Robin looked after him lovingly and said to himself, silly old bear. Pooh got himself stuck because he ate too much. But he was still loved regardless. I hope you enjoyed that story. I think Winnie the Pooh stories are kind of fun. Remember, Grandma loves you, and I'll come back and tell you another story later. Bye.